Okay. I am so excited because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about lately. And the perfect person that I thought I could bring on to talk about freeing the glue is Kayla Souza of Little Lilac Preschool. I mean, you've been on the pod before.
Yes.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
And um yeah, we're going to talk about glue play and like what that even means. Like what is glue play and why we should let children engage in this sort of play and exploration and just going to be an organic conversation. So, are you ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, when I say glue play, like what does that mean to you?
To me, it actually means a lot of things, and I'll get to that in a second. But I will have to say before I really dived in and explored and learned to follow the children and just thought outside the box. When someone would say glue play to me, I would think children with their whole bodies covered in glue, glue on the floor, glue dropping onto the carpet, glue all over the books, and glue in everyone's hair. Like that's what I
Yeah.
would think of when I thought of glue play. Now,
Yeah.
that if that happened in my space, that would be okay with me. But that's not exactly what all glue play looks like.
No.
It's not what a glue play looked like when I first started
No.
embracing the idea of letting kids explore glue. And I don't think it has to be like that for it
No,
to
you
be
can
meaningful
definitely have
and it
yeah.
to help children build skills. So I think that's what I used to think of glue play as. Now when I think of glue play, I think of children using creativity. I think of children innovating. I think of
Yeah.
children sitting at the table very concentrated. I think of children's little tiny fingers squeezing so hard on that glue
Yes.
bottle. And those are the things I think of when I think of glue play. Yes, sometimes they wipe it on things. Sometimes we
They
take
do.
it outside, and if it gets all over them or whatever, it's washable, it comes out. That's okay. But honestly, that's not what the glue play, my first, definition or what I first thought. That's not
Yeah.
what it looks like most of the time in my
No,
program.
it doesn't. And I think that that's what the misconception is that people
Yes.
think, oh my gosh, if we let children do whatever they want with the glue, like it is going to be complete, like art area anarchy and like everyone's going to be covered head to toe in glue, which I've never actually seen anybody cover their hair in glue. I've seen paint, but not glue. Have you seen hair like glue in hair before? Like,
Little, but I mean, maybe I know every kid is different and every situation is different, but I find we don't give kids enough credit, I don't think, because it's fun to touch glue. And I remember doing that whole like put the glue on your hand, let it dry, pick it
yes,
off with a paper clip type thing. Like even when I was older, I remember us doing that like in middle school and whatever. And like
yes,
it's just interesting to see how glue dries and how it changes. But kids, there are a lot of kids who don't actually like to touch the glue. It's too sticky for them. They ask me for wipes because they don't want their fingers to be too sticky. Or I think kids realize there's a difference in like the viscosity of glue versus paint.
yeah.
And I know a lot of my kids love to paint their arms, but I would not see those same kids painting their arms with glue
No,
just
absolutely.
because they know that it might not feel, comfortable. And so I think that's another thing that I didn't give kids enough credit to know. Yes, there's always going to be exceptions and there's always going to be things that come into play that are, sometimes we aren't expecting, but kids are, they're like us. And when they aren't comfortable with something, they don't want to do it. And so I think that
Absolutely.
that's something I've started to learn when it comes to the idea of just giving them more access to the glue. And I do think that for anybody listening that's like, oh my goodness, like I don't know what to do, I really would just, I started really small and it was like all the other things I've learned in the process of changing my whole mentality and program over to the play-based model
Hmm.
and the heavy outdoor model. Like everything has been a process. Nothing is like you jump up the next day. Some people are like that, and that's great if you're one of those people, like awesome for you. Like I had to take things really slow and take it a little bit at a time, but I found that as I did that, it became easier. And
Yeah.
I think that it's okay. The other thing too is that it's okay to have some not rules, but boundaries
Boundary. Yes.
for doing this, because I think that, again, we all know that kids actually thrive with boundaries. And so I think giving them freedom within the boundaries
Yeah.
is where the magic happens. And that's what I've seen.
Absolutely. Okay, so tell me what some of your boundaries are.
So, I mean, I have an indoor space
Mhm.
I run, for those who may not know, I run a small preschool, a licensed preschool out of my home. So my basement has been converted into a preschool space. And
Mm,
then I also have an outdoor classroom in my backyard, my fenced yard, that is a learning area.
yeah.
So, the kids know that if they're going to play with the glue, like the squeeze white glue, it's going to be down in the area that has the tile flooring where
Okay.
we have all our art
Yep.
supplies.
Yep.
And I'm pretty open with them if they can, carry a marker, a crayon, or other things, if they need to write something down over by the kitchen or whatever. But they know that if they're going to use the white glue, I said, you can use this glue however you want to use it, but it needs to stay in this space.
Yeah.
Now, when we're outside, that same rule does not apply. When I take white glue out and leave it out for them, or we have it out in our art on the table outside, that doesn't matter because we're outside. If they
Yeah.
want to squeeze it on the ground, if they want, obviously if I saw them doing like, maybe squeezing it onto our garden vegetables that we wanted to eat or something, but even that, like, you could just wash it off.
You
But
could.
like outside, there's not so many boundaries to that because we're outdoors. So I do think if that's something people are concerned about, I think it's absolutely fine and sometimes
Yeah.
needed, because if you have no boundary whatsoever, you're setting yourself up for something to happen that's going to make you, super overwhelmed, and then you'll never want to try it again. So I feel
Absolutely.
like give them a lot of freedom within that boundary area, and you're still giving them, like, I have the glue sitting out it's in the squeeze bottles, and I have it sitting out. That's all the time. Now there's
Mhm.
other times that I present it in other ways, like I might put it in a bowl or a cup with paintbrushes. Like, I like to give them glue in different ways, not just in a
Definitely.
squeeze bottle. But the squeeze bottles of glue are always available in my art area, like in the little glue basket. They can go and
Yep.
take out one if they want. They can use it for whatever they want, and then they just put it back when they're done.
Yep.
And I buy the big, like, gallon jugs of glue, and I just refill
Yes.
my squeeze bottles over and over and over again. When they get gross, I just recycle them.
Yep.
So that's kind of how it's available in my learning area. And then, like I said, outside, I'll just take the glue bottles outside, and they can, use them for whatever. If they want to do crafts outside, or glue some leaves onto paper, or,
Yeah.
put some glue on a log and see what happens, that kind of thing, then they can do that outside.
Okay. Do you have any very memorable glue story moments?
Actually, there was just a couple, like, within the last couple weeks. So I'm sure some of you have probably seen that. I think it's Crayola and probably some other art brands. They carry the colored glue, which,
Yeah,
FYI, you can make that yourself. But
absolutely.
I had some on hand, and so I had just put it out. I was like, oh, I found it in an old tote in the back of my
Yeah.
closet, and I was like, I'm trying not to be that teacher who hoards the supplies. Like, if I have
Yeah.
the supplies, I want to use them. So I was like, I'll just throw this out in here and see what happens. And I kind of just waited to see who would figure out there was colored glue in there first, and like what they would do with it. And it took them actually like a couple days to figure out there was some new glue in that basket, and they found it. And a couple kids were like, "Ooh, look, this colored glue!" And they were all excited, and they took it to the table and got out cardboard, because that's like our favorite supply. And I love giving kids, side note, giving kids cardboard with glue, because cardboard is so thick that even if they put a ton of glue on that,
Yeah.
it is going to, it's not going to fall apart like paper. And of course, if they want to put it on paper, that's fine. But if you're just starting out, I highly recommend try some cardboard because it's
Yes.
so sturdy. So anyway, I had a couple kids grab some of the color glue and go over, and they started squeezing it onto the cardboard and watching and seeing what would happen. And it wasn't even the first day, I don't think. It was maybe the second day. They came back, and another child, some of my kids come every day. And so it was one of the kids that came the day before, came back
Mhm.
again, and was back to the glue again, straight to the colored glue. And I noticed she went over to our art area where I have a little container that has like popsicle sticks and stuff in it, and she got a popsicle stick. So she got a popsicle stick first. You notice she doesn't want to touch it, but she went
Oh,
and she started just like making like she realized it was colored, and so she wanted to kind of explore it like paint. So she started running her little
Yeah.
stick through the paint on her cardboard to see what would happen. And what do you know? She accidentally mixed a couple of the colors
Yeah.
together. And because the glue just it happened to be primary colors, she thought she made green on her
Oh my
paper.
gosh.
And she was like, she was like shocked. And I could see her face, like the look on her face that, oh
Oh
my
my
word, what
gosh.
just happened here? And she
Yes.
came over and running, look, come and see. And she dragged me over there to show me, look, I made green. And some of the other kids came gathering around and they were like, some of them. So this is, I have a mixed age group. So I have kids from ages 3 to even some that are 6, like my child. So everybody gathered around and some of them were like, oh, you made green because you mixed these two colors. They already knew the colors mixed together make a new color. But then there were
Mhm.
some other kids who didn't know that. And they were like, oh, and then, the conversation just was organically unfolding as these kids were gathered around this girl who figured out that, yellow and blue makes green.
Oh my
But she
gosh.
discovered it through being able to just squeeze that glue, which has literally nothing to do with glue but
Absolutely.
everything to do with her discovering something and being curious. And not only was she discovering that, but she was working on the fine motor and just
Yes.
the eye
Problem
hand
solving.
coordination, art, being
Tools.
creative, exactly,
Yes.
collaborating with her friends, and then coming and telling me, look, I discovered this cool thing. And then we got to have a conversation about it, and then I went to my classroom library because it's right downstairs next to where the kids are, and I pulled a bunch of books out about colors and I sat them out for the kids so they could look at them. And it was just really cool. And that's, all of that just came out of
Yeah.
one little experience of letting them explore the glue, not saying, oh, you can't put that there, or we're going to paste this penguin to this
Yeah.
iceberg. Like just letting them have free access to do what they want to do with the glue. And that's the kind of beautiful things that I see happening fairly regularly, with just giving them that
Yeah.
freedom
Do
to
you
choose.
do you have the book Little Blue and Little Yellow?
Yes, I love that book.
Yes. Okay. And there's also a book, there's a children's book. I think it's called Free the Glue.
Oh, really?
And
When
it's
I did I
about
get
a
that one?
little kid who is in school and he uses all the glue and all the materials, but then like his body gets stuck to it as well. And so then like he has to his parents have to come and get him and like pull him out of like he's like full of like tissue paper and like crinkle paper and tape and all of these things, and then like he gets stuck to the wall at home. Like it's such a cute book, but it's really all about being creative and giving children the autonomy to create with glue. It's a great children's book.
Right. And I think like I have to admit, like I was one of those dot
Oh,
not a lot
same.
teachers. Like for years I had that little worksheet with the glue bottle on the top corner that had the little dots on it.
Uh-huh.
And we would
Yep, yep,
practice
yep.
doing the dotting and
Same.
everything. And well, I'm not saying that, I like harmed any children by doing that worksheet, but also the kids will learn to do that even if they're given free access to the glue without the worksheet. Like they know, okay, I'm going to squeeze this and I'm going to see how much is coming out. Oh, I'm trying to glue a project. That's too much glue. It won't stay because there's too much
Yeah.
dripping off the side.
Oh,
Like
the
kids
book
will
is
learn.
the book is called Too Much Glue.
Oh, too much. Oh, I have heard of that book. I'll have to
Yes.
get that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so tell me, what are some of your favorite like glue supplies that I know you mentioned cardboard and
Yes, cardboard
colored
is huge.
glue and making your
Yes,
own colored glue. You can also make your own glitter glue.
exactly.
Tell me what are some of your other faves that you love to put out for children to utilize with glue?
Okay, before I do, I will say, because I know you know, but maybe people listening don't know how to make your own glue colored paint or
Yeah,
colored glue,
tell us.
is just to put, I honestly, I've tried it with different ones, just regular tempera paint that you have, or I know some people that you buy the biocolor paint from
Yeah.
Discount School Supply. Even I think somebody I know tried liquid watercolors once. Whatever you have, put it in the paint bottle or the paint little squeeze bottle and shake it up. I usually make sure my thing only has like half to 2/3 of glue in it so it shakes up a little easier. But
Absolutely.
you can make your own colors that way. And it's a little bit, more cost effective. And like you just said with the glitter, you can put your own in and then, shake it up and it will do, or you can put it in a bowl like if you buy it in the big things.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I like to offer with glue, honestly, are like little dishes and paint brushes because some kids really love, even though, you know, yes, it's good for their fingers to squeeze the bottle. Some
Yeah.
kids just like that experience of like brushing a brush against something. And
Yes.
I like to present glue sometimes in little dishes, or like, so you could make your own, just put it in a little dish, drop in some paint and stir it up. And then just put
Yeah.
paintbrushes out and let them paint cardboard, or let them paint recycled things, or let them paint, paint things, anything that can be washable.
Yeah.
Like, I randomly have those people who maybe follow me on social media know that I have a random garden owl deterrent thing that's, with those statues,
Yes.
supposed
Yeah.
to deter
A decoy.
rabbits from eating my garden, which
Yeah.
was a complete and utter fail. And so because of that, we call it trash owl, because it was trash and it did not do its job. And my kids love to paint that thing with paint, but it's
Oh, yeah.
washable. It's like a plastic
Yeah.
owl. And so
Yeah.
even if you have something, anything like that, like even if there's layers of glue on it, eventually it will either wash off, or
Peel
the kids
off.
will pull it off, because
Yeah.
it's fun to peel off glue that's dried.
Absolutely.
So anything like that, get creative and see, what you can do with that. But so yeah, I would say saucers, bowls, paintbrushes, cardboard. The other thing I really love to do with it almost sounds like when we say free the glue, we think just like rivers of glue running everywhere. But
Yes.
I think, freeing the glue doesn't have to look like rivers of glue. It can just mean that the access is free,
Yeah.
and that what you're providing along with the glue is engaging and inviting to the children, so that they
Mm.
want to use the glue and practice that skill. So I like to set out like a ton of different collage materials, like whatever I have. I literally just go into I have a tote that's in my storage that I just throw stuff in. Like after holidays, I'll buy those packs of like pom-poms and the things that come in the seasonal colors, that they'll have like pom-poms and eyeballs and pipe cleaners and stuff, and I'll just pull out, random ones and put them in a big, I like those like chip serving things from like the Dollar Tree, because you can put a
Yeah.
lot of supplies, or like use those recycled boxes that all the Melissa and Doug toys ever come in, put a bunch of stuff
Absolutely.
in,
Yes.
cut up colored paper, use the paint chip thingies from the store that are free,
Yes.
tissue paper, whatever collage materials you have, newspaper, throw it in there and just let them glue whatever they want. I
Mhm.
love doing that, and I find that that's always one of my favorite like finished things when they do something and they're proud of it and want to hang it up, is like when they
Yes.
took a bunch of just collage materials and glue and glued whatever they wanted onto something. And
Can I tell you something
yes.
that somebody did for in my classroom once, and we actually had it hanging on the ceiling for many years afterwards. They emptied a whole bottle of glue into the bottom of a milk jug, and then
Oh,
like put a whole bunch of pony beads inside the milk jug in
oh
the
yeah.
glue. And then they took a piece of construction paper. It was like a red piece of construction paper, like folded it up and shoved it in the top of the glue bottle or the gallon jug, the milk jug. And that was their creation. And then they asked, can we hang that from the ceiling? I was like, absolutely, we can. So we did, and that milk jug lived on the ceiling, hanging from the ceiling for, I would say, 6 or 7 years.
I love that.
Amazing. Yeah.
I have to say I've not tried pony beads with glue, and that sounds amazing. I'm gonna
Yes.
try that. You know how they
Absolutely.
also have those really big, the perler beads, that you can
Yes.
iron with? They make like
Yeah.
gigantic ones of those, or like really big pony beads, because I've also found that when you look at like the way that children play through play schemas, you can see that anything that's gonna fulfill like put out empty lids, like recycled lids from all your juice and your mayonnaise and whatever after you clean them out. And the kids will just squeeze the glue into them to fill
Mhm.
them up, because they want to fill that little space. And so I just think it's
Yeah.
so cool when you can give things like egg cartons, anything that has like a unique space where the glue can fall inside or behind or under, or where it can fill something up. I
Yes.
found that is super, super satisfying for the kids to like squeeze. And I think the other thing that it kind of helped me think through the free the glue, is I was always picturing free the glue as like literally taking a cup of water and just dumping it out. But
Yeah.
if they're squeezing it out of bottles, unless you're taking the whole lid off, it doesn't come out that fast. And
Yeah.
I actually have kids come to me who are like, this won't come out. It's not. And it's because the bottle's like half gone. There's
Yeah.
still glue in it, but they are having a hard time waiting for that glue to like
Yes.
fall to the bottom. And so I'll just show them, okay, hold it here for a little bit, and I'll refill them when they get like really low. But
Yeah,
that's part of the process of them learning to strengthen those little hands and learning that, the glue has to have a downward so that it can slide out of the top of the bottle. Why might that
yes.
be? And so I just think those things are really, really fun. One of the other really, really awesome things I love to do with glue is to go to the Goodwill.
Yeah,
I love that.
I do love the
And
Goodwill.
buy
Mhm.
like old Jenga games,
Yeah,
old checker games, puzzles, and take a lot of all of those type of supplies and set them out as like an invitation with glue. My
yeah,
kids spent a whole week on that project, and some of them ended up with the most coolest things I have ever seen in my whole program. Like some of them, wanted to do it for a couple of days, like Scrabble tiles,
yeah,
and they wanted to glue their names in order. But one of my kids spent a whole week and made a cardboard thing too big that we had to do like 3 add-ons on the back with duct
yeah.
tape to hold it together. And he built like a whole house on top of it by gluing all the little Jenga pieces together, putting the little things on top. He took the puzzle pieces and lined them up straight, like almost like the edge of a castle.
Yeah.
And the little checker and chess pieces like people outside the front. And it was really quite amazing. But I love to use the Goodwill to get
Oh my
so like those
gosh.
random wooden pieces or like game
Yes.
pieces. Kids love that. And that's like again, like when I offered them the Scrabble tiles as part of that, they were talking about the letters. They were trying to spell their names. They were trying to spell their mom and dad's names, their dogs' names. Like
Yeah,
kids are soaking all that up. They're also learning other things along with
absolutely.
learning the skills that come along with using the glue. So I just think if it can be glued together and it's not going to harm it, permanently or something that I don't want it to be
Yeah.
destroyed. If it can be glued, then let them glue
Yes.
it.
Absolutely. Okay, I had two thoughts. One, have you ever added scent to your glue?
I have, yes, it's
Okay,
really fun.
where do you find your scents? What do you
I
use?
think in the past I think I used essential oils. I got a little not worried, but I don't want to make any kids like be sensitive to that, but I
Yeah.
have done now more recently where we just incorporate fresh herbs and like stuff from
Ooh,
the garden, and they can pound it in the mortar and pestle that we
yeah,
have
yeah,
outside, or we can have those inside too.
yeah.
And then they can kind of mix it into their glue if they want, for the kids that want to do it. And then you can smell the actual herbs mixed in with
Yes.
the glue.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
because we have a garden, so the kids, I have a whole area in my garden that's just herbs and
Yeah,
small flowers and stuff that the kids know that they can use for potions or for sensory play or for art.
yeah.
I plant a ton of that stuff with the sole intention that they are going to take it and use it for stuff like that. So
Amazing.
that's a really fun way, and it's fresh. And I found that I haven't had any kids that have had any aversions,
Yeah,
and I let them choose. So if they don't particularly like the scent of peppermint, then they don't have to put that in theirs. If
absolutely.
they'd rather have lavender or they'd rather leave it with nothing, that's
Yeah.
fine. So
So
yes, it's
we've
fun.
used for people who make like chapstick or candles, you can buy like scents like cotton candy or
Yeah.
root beer or things like that. I mean, there's like hundreds of scents that you can buy
I never thought
on
of that. That's a good
Amazon.
idea.
And so then we just like we'll make cotton candy scented glue or grape scented glue or apple or fresh cut grass scented glue. And it's just fun to see like what they think it smells like because a lot of times it's not even close to what it actually is supposed to smell like. So we have found that that's fun. Okay, the other thing I thought of, do you use any other sorts of glue? So we've talked about just like, your white Elmer's glue and adding
Right.
things to that. What other types of glue do you let children explore in your program?
Okay, yes. Before I say that, I will say I think if you are looking to try and you don't want, like, you just know you want them to have the experience of glue and maybe you don't want to spend as much money,
Yeah.
I will say something that everybody, don't hate me forever, but I think you can buy other brands that are not Elmer's.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they come in like sometimes I'll buy the big gallon from Discount School
Yeah.
Supply,
Yeah.
especially when they have like if there's a free shipping or something like that, because glue is heavy.
Absolutely.
And so I'll buy that, and that might be what I offer them outside when I know that
Yeah.
half of it's just going to end up on the ground or like it's going to get rained on. Where if we're doing like a project like what I said with the wood pieces and things that are more heavy, and I know that I really want them to be able to stick more, I'll give them the elm. I mean, that's what I have inside.
Yeah.
But I don't think you have to box yourself in to think I'm not saying there's one glue that's superior to other glues.
Yeah.
So, whatever you have, I think that's good. We also use, obviously, glue sticks is one thing. And I, again, am outside of the norm. And I was super excited about the scented glue sticks that everybody
Yes.
else hated.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we have them in my program. The kids love
Amazing.
them.
Love
They snort
that.
them. No one's ever eaten any. Um, I understand maybe that might
I
be,
do.
for
Yes.
some kids, and then you take that into consideration for sure. But that's never happened in my program. So we have glue sticks, and those are always out and available for them as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that we've been exploring are the very low heat hot glue guns,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is really fun to explore. And usually when I do use those, I don't have them out like just anybody can use them
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah.
It would be something that I've put out, and if I there's so most things I have enough for all my kids, which is a maximum of 8,
Yeah.
because I'm a solo provider. But if I was going to provide something like that, I would probably not provide 8. I would provide, 2 or 3, and then I would be there. And
Yeah.
if they wanted to come participate, I would set it out and they could come and explore it. And
Absolutely.
I would let them do it, but I would be there because I would, even though it's a low heat, and most of those do not, burn children, they won't burn
Yeah.
children. That's why they're safe for younger kids. I would still be supervising something like that.
Absolutely. And they
But
do make
yeah,
cold
yes.
glue guns too. So you can get
Yeah.
ones that aren't heated at all. They
Yeah,
don't work
those
as
2.
well, but it's an option.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have explored that as well. Sometimes if I have a group of kids that wants to do something, like they want to do a project, and we just can't get it to stick, even with the Elmers, like holding it on there, whatever. I might get it out and ask, do you want to try this? Because it's their project. I'm not just going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this to your project. Like, I'll ask them, do you want to try a different type of glue? And then they'll know that that's the type of glue that we can use when we're all using it together. But we've definitely
Absolutely.
used that on occasion as well. Just when they're trying to, one time we did some projects. I had gotten somebody had given me a bunch of like fake flowers.
Yeah.
And so the way they have those stems on the back, like even if you take them out, they're plastic. So
Yeah.
it just takes a lot of glue and a lot of time for them to stick. And some of the kids wanted to put them on cardboard or something to make a frame, and it just wouldn't stick.
Yeah.
And so we got out the little glue guns, and they just needed what they needed, and
Yeah.
then they were done. They didn't, want to necessarily need to be there all day with it. They just wanted to finish that project, and they had an idea and they wanted to see it
Yeah.
come to fruition. So we do
Absolutely.
explore that also. And I like to also thin down the glue, like dump a bunch of water in it and thin it
Mhm.
way down. And
Yeah.
it's almost like paint, like it'll still be sticky,
Yeah.
but that's another way that I like to offer it. It almost looks like oobleck when you do it that way.
Mhm.
And some kids will hate it because they won't like the consistency, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still technically white glue, but you're offering it, like I said, in a different format than what kids
Absolutely.
might be used to, and some
Yeah.
kids really enjoy that. And I always try to offer paintbrushes, or like I said earlier, like large popsicle sticks or something that they can use to stir a spoon
Yes.
in case they don't want to touch it.
Yes.
And I think it's okay that they don't want to touch it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we don't just
Absolutely.
because you're freeing the glue doesn't mean, first of all, that every kid's going to want to do that. And
Exactly.
secondly, that if they do, they want to touch it. So I
Right.
try to be supportive of every child and what they're going to be wanting to do with the glue.
And I also think that like freeing the glue doesn't mean that every child is going to squeeze out a whole entire bottle of glue every single day. Like,
Right.
they once they've done it once, they're probably, maybe probably not going to do it again because it's a lot of work to squeeze all of the
Yep.
glue out of a bottle. So I think that's a misconception about glue play. If we just let them
Yes.
go to town, like it's going to all be gone within a week and then we don't have any glue for the rest of the year. But I
I
don't know.
get that. And I
Yeah.
think coming from, we've both been in a larger, like more traditional classroom setting
Yeah.
before. So we know that there's classrooms and people out there listening who have 24 kids,
Yeah.
and they have to have supplies for all those kids. So my piece of advice for that would be, if it were me, I would not offer it to everybody at the same exact time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, have it as an option during your free play time.
Absolutely,
Or
yes.
if you do want to offer it to all kids, can you take it outside and then, let them
And
have
not every child is
turns,
going to do it anyway.
Yes, and some may not want to do it. And so I think that's one way to Because, like, again, when I go back to my very first perceptions of Free the Glue, it was exactly what you said, that every kid's gonna squeeze out one bottle of glue on the daily,
Yeah,
and it's gonna be everywhere,
yeah.
which I have not found that to be true in my program. Even for
Me neither.
last week, I was mentioning, the child that discovered the colors would mix. So I remember clearly because this child had been at the glue all week, and it was
Mhm.
like Wednesday, so we only run 4 days a week. After that day of discovering the glue was mixed, that she made a color, the next day she didn't play with the glue at all.
Yeah,
And I remember it, the reason I remember that is because I was like, "Oh, I wonder if she's gonna come back and mix more glue today." Like, my brain was
yeah,
thinking, because that was such an amazing, exciting moment, everybody came over and everybody
yeah.
was talking, and I was like, "Look at them learning," and I was like, "Woohoo, they're so awesome." The next day, crickets,
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh, isn't it funny?
So, it's because, they got what they wanted out of what they needed out of that situation, and that was it. Like, at the time, that was the big discovery, or, maybe not. Maybe a friend asked her to play something else, and she was more
Yeah,
interested in that. Or nothing had changed, the glue was still out the same way it's out every day, nothing was different, like, it was available. Crickets.
crickets.
So I just think if we learn to trust, it's really hard. I know it is, because I still feel that way about some things in my program, not just glue, but like, especially when it continues to go on and on for like multiple days at a time. But I just have to remind myself, once you see the result of giving a child freedom
Yeah,
in something, let's not even say glue, but whatever it is, and you see the process from the beginning of that period of interest to when they decide they don't need that anymore,
mhm,
if you let that play out and you see it through a few times, it will help you not to be as, like, anxious about that. At least that's what it
absolutely.
did for me, because I can
Same.
remember, okay, I remember so and so was really interested in painting on the easel, and that lasted like 2 weeks, and
Uh-huh.
then it was done. So, like, not that I'm hoping they're gonna, be done with whatever, but it just reminds me that it's not gonna be forever. Like, it really can be a really long time. Like, last year, one of the longest things, and this is not related to glue, but I had a student who was just obsessed with crushing sidewalk chalks in the mortar and pestle outside
Yeah.
in the garden, and I do not exaggerate when I think he did it every single day all of last school year.
Oh
And
my
that
god.
child is with me again. Not that's not the all he did, but, like,
Yeah,
he would
yeah.
do it at least at some point almost every single day, and he was with me all day, all days of the week.
Oh my
This
goodness.
year, I'll see him do it sometimes, but it's not something he's going back to occasionally, but he's does other things now. And again, not that that's bad, but I remember thinking, "Wow, how long is this gonna go on?" So, I
Yeah,
mean, like, I'm not saying that means you're gonna have a kid squeeze out a bottle of glue for an entire school year,
yeah,
but the whole point is, if we let kids, explore the things that are calling to them,
yeah.
there will be a time where something else will call to them, and
Oh,
they'll have
yeah,
gotten what they needed out of that experience. And that, I think, is a matter of us learning to trust them. And it is hard. It is hard because it's not how society trains us all to think. We
yeah.
think kids should trust us because we're the adults, but really, we need to trust them. And
Oh,
that's really hard because we're trying to flip the script.
yeah.
And so I think, trust the kids. I just urge people to give it a try. Start small. One project that I did once that was really not easier to do is just cut everybody like a small-ish piece of cardboard, like,
Yeah,
like eight and a half, like you would have construction paper.
yeah, yeah.
Use recycled stuff that you already have.
Yep,
And I just set them out so there was enough for everybody to have one,
yeah.
and put out some glue and some whatever scraps you have. Literally go grab some paper off your shelf and chop it on the paper cutter, and dig out the dusty box of pom poms from the back of your thing that you like forgot was back there.
Yep,
Like, literally just get that stuff out and put it out, and then see what happens. Like, just start
yes.
there. And as give yourself that freedom to see what happens, and once you see the magic, then you
You
can't unsee.
you
You
can.
can never unsee.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh. Okay. Tell people this is a phenomenal conversation. I'm gonna really quick tell people about a cool opportunity, and then I'm gonna let you tell people about something you're providing and where they can find you. So I am putting on a Free the Glue workshop and you can find the information down in the show notes. It is going to be live on Zoom, but you can get the recording. And if you're listening to this after it's already taken place, then you can get the on-demand training, but it's all things Free the Glue. There's a Free the Glue ebook that comes along with it with all the gluey ideas. And then we also have a glue sponsorship, Kristen RB Peterson and Company, where if you are not able to free the glue in your program because of limited supplies or because of maybe admin is like, not a lot. I do a sponsorship so people can get their name in the drawing for that. We draw once a month, and then I send your program. It's over 200 and some dollars worth of glue stuff so that you can allow children to free the glue in your program. All I ask for is pictures in return. So those are some great opportunities that you can take advantage of. And Kayla, tell us what you've got going on.
Yes, I will. And I do send people messages and tell them to apply to your glue scholarship thing because
Good. Oh,
it's
good.
awesome. And I think people, if you start thinking about like if you can paint with it, you can probably do glue with it. That's another thing
Yes.
that I
Oh,
forgot
I
to
love
say.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I honestly just give it a try. But yeah, I am most active and like excited to find you over on Instagram. I'm Little Lilac Preschool. I also have a website, littlelilacpreschool.com. And then I will give Kristen the link so she can put it in the show notes. But I just have a
Yes.
quick little PDF for you with like kind of a summary of this conversation and made a couple of little ideas for you too for
Amazing.
glue. Because when Kristen asked if I wanted to talk about Free the Glue, I was like, what? Obviously, I want to talk about Free the Glue.
You were like the first person I thought of. I was like, we need to have.
So I'm all for it. I hope I will be at Kristen's. I'm signing up for the training, so I hope everybody else will too. And yeah, come and talk to me
Great.
about Free the Glue anytime too.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the
Oh,
work that
thank
you're
you.
doing with young children everywhere. I appreciate you and everything you're doing.
Always awesome. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah.
Bye.